Greetings Guardians, my name is Bife here. One of the stranger things in the Edge of Fate reveal was undoubtedly this voice that was playing during the gameplay reveal trailer.
Observe, connect, exhale, conform, comply, return, observe, connect, exhale, conform, comply, connect.
According to Alison Lurs, the Destiny narrative lead who was in the stream, the voice we heard was the voice of Lodi. According to Alison, Lodi is supposed to be a fascinating character and he is very, very far from home. But this isn't all we learn from the reveal, and this isn't the first time we've heard of Lodi. So, today I'm going to talk about what we know about Lodi from the reveal and some things that we can sort of glean from it all. But first, I know, Facecam. Get this. A subscription to my YouTube channel might be free, but that tends to be the exception with subscriptions nowadays. It's really nice to have a subscription service where you're signed up to something and you get it for $10 a month and you make good use out of it. But if you forget about that thing and you don't use it anymore, that's $120 out of your account every single year that you could be putting to something else. And that's wasted money. Luckily though, today's sponsor at Rocket Money can help you out. They're an all-in-one personal finance app that helps you to lower bills, take control of your finances, and also to cancel those pesky subscription services, which, using their app, you can do in just a few taps. If you're like me, an app like this is great because, well, I'm at the point in my life where I'm trying to save money for really big life purchases, and Rocket Money helps you take control of your financial assets. More importantly, it's something that has real results because Rocket Money customers have saved up to $740 when using all the app's premium features. And that's fantastic, just for the sake of being able to put some spare change away, either for those big purchases or in case a rainy day comes along. To save more and spend less, join the over 5 million members using Rocket Money today. You can do so by clicking the link down in the description or going to rocketmoney.com/mynameisbife. Get started today for free. Thanks again to Rocket Money for sponsoring this video. Anyway, back to the lore. So before we begin, I think I should address the Chicago connection and the collector's edition lore packets. The short version of this is that there appears to be a connection between Lodi and Chicago. We can tell that thanks to the final few frames within the gameplay trailer, which shows a few weird things, but amongst everything else we get a figure who I presume is Lodi, falling through the sky of what appears to be a city in the middle of the collapse. I presume that because there are pyramid ships in the sky. Residents to Chicago will know that the building that's been cut in half and collapsed on the other building to the right is actually the Sears Tower, or is it the Willis Tower? I can never remember. Either way, this leads us to some really interesting possibilities connecting Lodi with the unfolding lore of everything going on in Chicago, gravity weapons and all. The presence of the pyramid ships of the Black Fleet in the sky seems to confirm that this moment, at least, is a moment that occurs during the collapse. So perhaps Lodi is a Golden Age human? But it should be noted that none of this truly adds up, because Lodi would have died if he was here in the collapse. Even if he didn't die, how did he end up getting to Kepler all the way out in the Oort cloud? Add this in with the fact that the emissary has been throwing chess pieces at us through various dimensions, and the fact that there are lots of hints to time travel, and you can sort of see why, well, this all feels a bit weird. If the figure falling through the sky is Lodi, which I don't think we know right now, but it seems possible considering all the other cutscenes in this particular small section of cut footage are, then yeah, maybe he was around during the Golden Age and maybe he did briefly see the collapse. Take into account the fact that this feels like it could be the meddling of the Nine due to the frame before as well. Lodi's face here is being pulled apart and divided into many identical screaming copies of itself. That looks like the meddling of the Nine to me at least. All I'm saying is that whilst it's possible that he's a Golden Age human, we have a bunch of evidence that he's possibly just witnessing this as opposed to having lived it, pun not intended. And, of course, there is the possibility, given the garb that he's wearing, that he's a warlock. But I have a few reasons to doubt that, which I think I'll get into later in this video. All this Chicago conversation, however, brings me to something else that I wanted to touch on from the collector's edition of Edge of Fate. It contains lore notes and pages that some of the community has made an incredible effort of piecing together from the PNGs on the store page. Like, you know how they always have the documents like splayed out and it's a really flat page and you can't practically read something? Well, someone somehow took that page and made it actually legible? I don't know what witchcraft they used to get this done, but it is damn impressive that they managed to do that. However, this is not technically in our hands yet, and whilst I will say that it probably pertains to Chicago, I also am not going to say anything more than that, because if we don't have it in our hands, I'm going to consider it a spoiler. I will consider doing stuff on it when I actually get access to it, but yeah, the lore stuff generally is pretty heavy with spoilers when it comes to all of this, so I'm not touching any of this nonsense. It's kind of why I wanted to mention the Chicago topic all the way at the top. This is well known in my channel at this point. If you don't know about my spoiler policy and you're mad about that, hi, you must be new around here. Either way, point being, if you want to go ahead and read those pages for yourself, Hex Cody is the man responsible for basically taking those pages and managing to put them through whatever it was that allowed us to read them. So you can go ahead and check those out. I just ask that you keep any discussion of it out of my comments section, because we're trying not to spoil people. Guesswork they may be for a small part of it, but they still might ruin someone's experience. In other words, keep it secret, keep it safe, or catch a shadow ban to the face. Moving on. What else do we know about Lodi? Well, there is exactly one reference to him that exists in-game, and it's in Vesper's host. Vesper Station sent a message to the anomaly that's in the skybox of the dungeon. This was not authorized by the station AI, Estrella, but that message essentially was a means of establishing a first contact ping. However, it appears that somehow something was able to receive a message in the anomaly as well, and something was sent back through it. Take a listen.
Warning! Unauthorized message coming through the anomaly. Data follows. Lodi transmitting. Status Moonsick. Adrift. Odysseus protocol active. It repeats from there. Do you recognize the code?
So we have a message from whatever was on the other side of the anomaly, and we now know that this was a message sent by Lodi, the person. This, of course, was something where we didn't know exactly what Lodi was at the time being, we just knew that they were a proper noun. I've speculated previously on what the anomaly at Vesper's host seems to have been. Whilst it started as an Elixni ether generator, it appears that the entire thing would eventually be turned into a communication device. Essentially, think of this as a giant tin can on a string linking to somewhere. The anomaly was being communed with by whatever was controlling the White Captain, aka the corrupted puppeteer, aka the corrupted clone of Atrax 1. Somehow, Lodi sent this message through the anomaly. More importantly, Lodi was able to transmit a message in the human language that was stacked with meaning. Whether this means Lodi is responsible for the anomaly in some regards, or was simply hijacking it to send what appears to be a really elaborate distress signal, is unknown, but he's already skirting around some pretty dangerous influences as it stands. As for his message, we can break it down a little bit. Status Moonsick Adrift would imply that he's both suffering from some kind of mental fatigue and that he's lost out somewhere, probably on Kepler. This fits Allison's description of him as someone very, very far from home. His goal is also stated within the message, as I believe that Odysseus Protocol Active is referring to his current actions. For those that don't know the story, Odysseus basically spent years trying to return to his home at Ithaca after the Trojan War. Through various circumstances, he kept on getting lost at sea with his crew. This is Lodi telling us that he is actively out there trying to get home. Following Odysseus Protocol is basically him saying, hey, I'm pretty far from home and I would like to get back. He is desperately trying to make his way back by the sounds of things, if the Moonsick status is anything to be judging it by. What makes all this really interesting is another description that Allison Lurs gave us about Lodi, which is simply that he's a fish out of water, and yet he's also probably the most qualified fish to be out of water. So with that, we can take a guess as to what his profession is, or what his skill set might be. First things first though, let's return to that brief point about him probably being a warlock and yet also maybe not being a warlock at all. Because you see, in all of our interactions with Lodi, we don't actually see him use any powers of the light, and we also don't see any ghost. So yeah, no space magic, no ghost. I'm willing to stick my neck out here and say that he might not be a Guardian at all. I feel like if he was a Guardian, they'd be prominently showing off his ghost to us as well. It also wouldn't make much sense if he was there to witness the fall of Golden Age Chicago, because I mean, obviously, that's a moment that predates the Guardians entirely. So yeah, I don't know if he's a Guardian in this instance. Totally unproven, he's certainly got the Warlock robes to show it, but just keep that in mind. And if he isn't a Guardian, well, what other professions might he have? Well, my first guess was going to be astronaut. This would explain why he's so well qualified as a fish out of water, and I think it'd make a really cool perspective, but I think that that might be reaching technically, and there's a reason for it. The reason is the glasses. Long story short, if you're going to be an astronaut or a pilot in the US, at very least, NASA has a requirement that you need 20/20 vision that is either naturally 20/20 or can be correctable to 20/20. This doesn't mean that he's explicitly banned, it just makes the glasses less likely for him to qualify. I'm pretty sure it would mean that he'd have to be a certain kind of astronaut if he was going to be an astronaut though. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I do not know the exact qualifications and the exact specifications, but from what limited information I do remember, there are two routes to becoming an astronaut. The military route that you take through the Air Force, and the scientific route. The military route is only possible for decorated pilots, if memory serves correctly, and I think they have much stricter requirements for vision, which means that if Lodi is an astronaut, he's probably more of a scientist. As for other possible careers, well, your guess is as good as mine, but I think the only other possibility comes from a rather strange bit of his appearance, which is simply that he has an earpiece, and the fact that he has a handgun. Now, handguns aren't exactly remarkable in a Destiny context, but this one seems remarkably fresh and free of any kind of branding of the foundries that we know of in Destiny today. So again, there is a potential link to the time travel thing there. And I don't think I've seen a Guardian using an earpiece at all, and it doesn't really make sense for them to have them, because we all talk through radios, but we don't have them visible. That's just beyond the technology that Destiny has. So again, this is kind of a weird, out-of-touch piece with regards to the technology of the time. But the way that it looks as well, looks like something that you'd see for security services using stuff today generally. So maybe he's got some kind of military or intelligence background that requires him to have a weapon and some kind of discrete comms equipment. I don't know why that would make him more qualified for Kepler, though, so chalk that one up to being a guess as well. This one just feels like a lot more of a reach. Knowing all of this, though, it's likely that it's something nobody's going to think of. And, well, if the Aeon network is out there in Kepler, then maybe he's just a great chess player. I don't know, a world-class chess player that's been pulled out of a time stream. Again, your guess is as good as mine. As for what else we learn, I think we should look at the trailer and the reveal stream to find out more. First of all, we have the trailer, and in particular the stills of Lodi, which show some frankly really weird, trippy stuff. There's the presumed image of Lodi falling through the Chicago skyline during the collapse, which we already discussed. There's the split faces frame here, which again we also touched on briefly, but perhaps this indicates something else important. It's been stated in the lore that the Nine have a faction or two within them, and that they are divided into a division of 4 and a division of 5. Lodi's face here is splitting into 5 faces. So maybe he's been corrupted and sort of grabbed and affected by the faction that created Xur and the Emissary. Then again, this could be a coincidence depending on whether Mercury is amongst their number or if it is indeed something that's been corrupted and pulled back from its abduction by the Witness. I don't know. It's also worth noting that this is just a single frame, and this could split more beyond just the 5 faces here. So, who knows? Getting a little bit nebulous and weird there, but I don't put it past the kind of surreal imagery that we see. Speaking of which, we see a few more nebulous stills of Lodi falling. One of them is of him falling away from a train by the looks of things that is bursting out of some kind of, it looks like a seam in reality. I see people referring to these trains all over the internet as L trains or elevated rail trains from Chicago. So again, there's that connection there. There is the other frame in this moment of the trailer that looks like Lodi is falling into water. No thank you on that one. And there is the first frame of all of this, which is Lodi's face, and it shows something interesting. For starters, it shows something in Lodi's hands. I have no clue what the hell this is, but it's rounded and there's a band of metal at the top of it. So maybe it's a teacup? That's the best guess I've got. Maybe that dates it to a certain period? I don't know, but whatever it is, it looks as though it's almost being thrown out of his hand, which isn't surprising, because in his glasses you can see the oncoming train. Yeah, trains. Always trains here. I don't know if Lodi is a Guardian, but if he is, maybe this is the reason why he died. I mean, I don't know what would qualify him as one of the worthy dead, but it's a pretty bad start to his story to sit there and say, hey, how did you die? Well, I died in this amazing ancient battle with dragons and darkness. How did you die? Oh, yeah, I got hit by a train. I don't know, how do you even qualify this story, right? Like, what's going on with this particular frame is such a weird moment. You know, was he collecting a tea set from down on the tracks? Like, what's happening here? It's so strange, but then again, the train is always out of nowhere when these frames are concerned. So, I don't know. Regardless, if this is a way that Lodi dies, it's a pretty bad way to go. Finally, we have Lodi's words from the trailer and Allison's commentary on him during the reveal stream. In the trailer, we can hear Lodi repeat these words. Observe, connect, conceal. Conform, comply, return. Those words then seem to get mixed up in order, with Lodi saying return, conform, comply. By the end of the trailer, he's repeating these words with his voice getting to the point of complete distortion. We can't tell what this is, but given the context, it probably involves the Nine, and it probably is driving him absolutely mad. This might be the moon sickness that he was referring to in his message. Lodi also states, Guardian, I had a vision, followed by, they just want to show us disasters. Then we get the ominous lines of, I'm not human anymore, and no one else should know what this feels like. So Lodi was once human, definitely, but somehow his humanity is being erased? And by the sounds of things, it appears that that process is torture. And this I think is hinted to by the rest of the dialogue because again, his voice from this point onwards starts to morph and change even more. The final complete line is a really ominous one. Enough. Terminate your suspicion, Commander. Remove your scornful blindfold. This is perhaps a commentary on ignorance, but the phrase Commander seems to refer to Zavala's title. Then again, I wonder if Ikora is technically also a commander. We haven't seen anything about Zavala in Edge of Fate, but we have seen some stuff about Ikora's place in this expansion. I don't know, I'm not sure how that stands, and I'm not sure what rank Ikora is technically. As for what the scornful blindfold and the suspicion is, I don't know. But this is perhaps a call for peace and for understanding. That doesn't mean that in this moment Lodi is our ally though. If this is Lodi speaking, then he might be pushing an agenda that we might not agree with. Think of it like the witness asking for our loyalty and supplication. And well, you kind of get the idea. It might be positive from Lodi's perspective, but for us it might be downright horrifying. Especially if this is something speaking through him. And I think we need to compare some of these lines to get a better sense of that. Lodi is terrified of this change in the moments before, and he says that he might not be human anymore. But then again, there's the voice change, and he implores us to see a new perspective. These two moments have some real dissonance to them. One of them is terrified of change, the other one is inviting understanding of something. Combine that with the voice distortion, and I think that this represents Lodi becoming possessed by something that's changing him. Whatever the case may be, I think Lodi is likely to be our conduit to whatever evil the expansion is meant to be based on, and, well, maybe that links him somehow to the Nine. Now, as for what Allison had to say, which is our last segment to this video, we've already discussed some of it, but here are some other details. Firstly, apparently Lodi was created as a character that wasn't just a fish out of water and a qualified fish out of water, but also he was someone that seemingly was made to be pulled out of water. Apparently he was made as a character that's like a friend that we would want to look up to in the expansion's story. So again, for me this gives just vibes of Astronaut. I don't know anything else that would fit, but it's also one of those moments where we could be missing some contextual detail. Right now, I think that just fits naturally because the only detail I have is he's probably out on Kepler and Kepler is in the Oort cloud, so space. I don't know, we could see more of it and might not understand. According to Allison, apparently Lodi was invited to Kepler in the same way that Ikora was and the same way that we were. According to Robbie Stevens, we're joining Lodi and the others in a big interconnected web where the powers that be have been deliberately trying to pull us all together in this time and place. So we need to understand Lodi's place in this and know that all of it is deliberate. For whatever case is going on, he appears to be the key to part of this puzzle. But for now, that's the most of what we know about Lodi. There's some other stuff we can speculate on, and obviously there's a fair deal of speculation in this video, but yeah, he's likely to be a central character in Edge of Fate, and whilst we still have no clue about his involvement with Orin, the Nine, Ikora, the Aeon Network, or ourselves, it should be a no-brainer that we should keep tabs on his story as it evolves, because it sounds like he will be too. Not just in a narrative sense either. Quite literally, he may be evolving if that "I'm not human anymore" line is to be believed. Now, all that being said, that's all from me for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and leave a like and let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. And, as per usual, know that your viewership, as always, is quite enough for me. And that in the meantime, my name is Bife. Rhodacia ad Astra. I'll see you, Starside.